This an all-out blitz. Real hard hits, them other podcast trash, we gon' make them all quit. We cover all the topics with intelligence and logic. I know you wanna score, but ID gon' stop it. We from Texas, so that mean that we Texans. Breaking down the X's and O's, our profession. No complaining, just training, you see the progression. They had a Pro Bowl for talk shows, we get selected. We gon' celebrate every win like a birthday. Ray J with the news, first with all the updates. Spin move on the competition, yeah, we juking them. You not really in touch if you not tuning in. This is Crenshaw, Briggs and VT. We want the touchdown, we not trying to go for 3. And it's best if you get up out the street, cause them bulls out the pen and they bout to stampede.
Houston Texans, what up? What up? What up? What up? What up? What up? Hey!
Welcome to the Texans Fan Battle Podcast. Guys, Season 3 premiere tonight. Thank you for riding with us for 3 seasons through the bad takes, the good takes, and what the hell are you talking about takes. So we are very grateful you guys watching us. We got a very special guest, but before I introduce him, I got my amazing trio. Always it's your host, Briggs. And with me, I got the Space Reddit, the Twitter typer, angry, and all you Texans fans. I got Mr. VT.
What's going on, guys?
And I got my A1 since day one. He was with me here since day one. I got Mr. Crenshaw.
What's up, everybody?
Guys, if you watch the NFL Network, you watch Good Morning Football, you know this guy very well. Some good stuff on National Football TV. We got Mr. James Palmer. How you doing?
I'm good, guys. I'm good. What's going on?
Just enjoying this frenzy you call NFL free agency, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah. Hey, man, we coined that, I think. I think at NFL Network, we coined the whole free agency frenzy thing.
Hey, it's catchy, right? I mean.
Right? It is.
Right. So,
it is.
I keeping y'all busy, right? I mean, on your toes.
Yeah, man. This is late for me right now. I'm in New York right now. I'll be up at like 4 getting ready for that show. So this is 9 right now? Let's go. Frenzy doesn't sleep. We still got news tonight. You'll see it come out.
All right. Well, speaking of news tonight, let's jump in it. NFL news, free agency everywhere. People getting signed, people getting traded. First, let's talk about Aaron Rodgers to the Jets. James,
we can't say Aaron Rodgers to the Jets yet, but we can say, Aaron Rodgers potentially to the Jets, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, he basically came on Pat McAfee today and said he's going to be a Jet. But you're right. It's not confirmed until tomorrow, correct? They can't get it official till tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern?
No. Well, the new league year started today at 4, but this thing could take a while. This could go – no, I'm not saying it will, but this could go the majority of the offseason. Because if you think about the way this is and the way Aaron's contract is laid out, his contract's laid out almost in bonuses in a sense, and it doesn't really kick in until week 1. So really, if you think about what just happened on the McAfee show today is Aaron Rodgers just told the entire Jets fan base he wants to play for the Jets. And now the Packers have that in their back pocket going, okay, well, Aaron just let everybody know he wants to play for the Jets. He let everybody know that we want to move on and go to Jordan Love. Now they have the ability to almost have the upper hand, right, over the Jets. Now the Jets are sitting there going, well, Aaron wants to play. Aaron's told everybody he wants to play for us. Now we have to make this deal happen. Now the Packers can sit back and go, okay, well, maybe we want this now. Or maybe they can wait it out because right now he's sitting, I believe, on their cap at only like $32 million. Now he's set to make $60 this year, but he's only sitting at their cap for $32. So they can still operate, right, a little bit throughout this offseason in terms of free agency, in terms of other things, because it's not a massive cap hit that he's taking up on their books right now. So to me, that's the most interesting part of it. I mean, this deal could have happened at any time. Aaron said he's made up his mind since Friday. But at any point between Friday, I guess, if you want to say that as a time, and now and whenever this deal can get done, it's not overly complicated. They don't want multiple ones. They're not really holding the Jets over the coals for it right now. It's kind of funny because there are other aspects when you're dealing with Aaron Rodgers to get a deal done. There's the wish list that he claims it doesn't exist, but does exist. And he wants to, I mean, I'm not saying he's demanding those guys to play there, but he'd like them to, obviously. So there's other things that go into it. But this thing, my whole point is it could get done tomorrow. It could get done in 3 months. It could get done in 4 months. It's going to be a waiting game that might drive some people completely insane. And if I'm the Packers, I'm cool driving the Jets insane. Like, if that helps my draft return on it.
Right. And especially, not doing Aaron Rodgers any favors anytime soon, So, because every year it's stuff, it seems like he's the attention of the team. So, I mean, it might be time to, like Lovie Smith, sometimes divorce is a good thing. So,
What's your guys' feeling on Lovie down there?
I love that he changed the culture. I mean, with the whole Deshaun Watson thing going on, David Coley, the culture was terrible down here. And then Lovie kind of, brought that culture back, which, it was needed. But I don't think he's the head coach. Not no more. That's just my opinion.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, he was a bit too stuck in his ways. There were public reports by Aaron Wilson and others that were saying that there were complaints by other individuals that were working on staff saying that he wasn't listening to any ideas, that he wouldn't even change the simplest things of just a timing of practice. So never mind, the scheming, that Cowboys game, that upset me like tremendously because we were doing quite well. And all Dak Prescott had to do was throw up the seam because you're running Tampa 2, and that's your vulnerability. And all he had to do was throw up the seam 8 times. I think he had 8 completed passes in that game consecutively. And because we had no one there. And he just didn't adjust. So I think I'm happy that he left. I'm happy that we got to Miko. I think he's going to do a great job. But I guess we'll talk about the free agency in a moment, but I'm not necessarily 100% ecstatic so far with our free agency. Getting better because we made a couple good moves recently, but overall, not exactly 100% excited.
Crenshaw, what do you think
VT,
about
let's be honest. You got on me. You got on me over my take on the coaching.
Oh, I definitely did. Yeah. And I stand by it. I mean, I don't think that it was a bad thing to fire Lovie. In fact, I was rooting for it. I think that he needed to go. I understand how it looks, firing 2 black coaches back to back. And it looks like you're so unstable. But the thing is, it had to happen. The way that everything went down, from the Deshaun Watson stuff to having to get Cully, to the way that the whole Jack Easterby stuff went, we were going to have Josh McCown be the head coach. And, John McClain, who on the show said that Hannah is the one that actually talked to Cal and Nick and said, no, we can't do this. It'll look bad. That's the only reason why we didn't end up with Josh McCown. And the fact that we had to have her stop it is kind of scary, right? Like how did no one else think of that? And so the way we ended up with Lovie is simply because we had no other choice. He was the person that we got because we couldn't get who we wanted to get, and the person who we wanted to get shouldn't have never been in the building in the first place.
James, you seem like you have something interesting to say. What was it?
Well, I do. So it sounds like what you're saying, man. Like, so I wasn't wrong either. Like, my whole point, if you're saying, my whole point, if nobody remembers this argument other than me, but my whole point was, if you're interviewing for this job, you should have just as many questions for the Houston Texans ownership group that is interviewing you as they have for you. And I think that's a very fair thing to go into the interview process with. Well, first, you should always be asking questions because I mean, if you come in without asking questions about an organization you're going to start being the face of that franchise for, you got problems and you probably shouldn't be running it. But to me, specifically as a minority head coach, there are questions you need to ask, whether the perception of what happened to David Culley and Lovie Smith is however you want to take it. you still need to address ownership about, am I going to get patience? Am I going to get the ability to build a culture and the ability to have multiple years on this? Like, those are very valid questions. However you want to slice what happened over the last 2 years, whether Lovey deserves to be fired, whether he doesn't deserve to be fired, same thing with my whole point was, and this kind of goes with you saying, if the general, who was a mentor to me in Houston when I was there on this beat, says that Hannah McNair is the one that made the decision not to have Josh McCown, I'm going to have some questions for ownership if that's the way things are being run in the building, if I'm going to become the new head coach. Is that not a valid?
Well, it's not like she made the decision. What she did is she talked to Cal and Nick and said, hey, we're going to have a problem with the media, because we were getting blasted in the media with Josh McCown already, right? Finding a black coach and then hiring someone that basically coached high school. So she, it's not like she made the decision, but she convinced Cal and Nick not to have McCown there. My issue that I had when you said that is that the issue was that a black head coach had to ask those questions, because in my opinion, Cully should have never been hired, and Lovey should never have been hired.
Every coach should come in and ask those questions.
That's different, right? But I think that Cully and Lovey should never have been hired. They were hired because who was going to give them another opportunity? And it's not the fact that they were black that's the reason why we gave them the opportunity. We gave them the opportunity because they wanted to see if they could prove something, and they obviously weren't. But there weren't a lot of coaches that wanted to take this job, and so we're like, throw enough shit on the wall, see what sticks, because there wasn't a lot of other opportunities. And the thing is, when we had to fire them because we thought that there were better opportunities, and of course, D'Amico is world better than Lovey. And at the time, if you believe the rumors, we were trying to get Flores, which is why we got rid of Cully in the first place. And Flores was better than Cully. So, we were trying to get a better coach, and the thing that on paper,
D'Amico is better, right? I mean,
correct.
He's still a rookie, still inexperienced. So on paper,
Sure. Right. Yeah. We haven't seen a snap of football yet. No, but the point there is that there was a very valid reason for it. And I think a lot of the media, and it wasn't just you, but it was a lot of the media that was unfairly saying it without saying it, is that the organization had a racial problem and that they were almost purposely putting black individuals in a situation only to fire them because they, for whatever reason, I'm not even going to imply anything more there, but it was ridiculous to call an entire organization racist when they've actually been one of the most diverse organizations in the NFL.
So, VD, my entire point, and I don't think my whole point was based off of them both being black. It was based off of instability, and it was based off of everything that you just more or less said, right? Like, if you break down what's gone on over these 2 years, what you really were saying was like, I would have, everything you just said, if all of it's true, I would have 1,000 questions if I was applying for this head coaching position, because that's a lot of that's a lot of bad communication within a building. That's a lot of disorganization within a building. If I get what you're saying, like, we had to fire them, like we had to, all right, well then I want to know why ownership put themselves in this position. All right, then how did you put yourself in that type of position? Those are questions that I would want answered if I was putting myself in the interview process for this head coaching position, because I'm going to be working directly with the owner and I'm going to be working directly with Nick. And so I would want to know, how did you guys get yourself in this position? Are we going to get ourselves in this position again with me or any other aspect of how we go about it? I think all of that should be on the table. And that was my point in going, like, there should be a lot of questions asked because it has not been run very well for the last couple of years. Hiring a good head coach, we can break down D'Amico at length. I would love to. I think the world of him. But I think all of those questions, no matter what candidate you are, you have to come in and go, what's happened the last 2 years? I think it's a very valid question to ask. And that was essentially my point. And then we'll drop that part of it.
Yeah. All right. Well, before we move on, Crenshaw, what do you think of Lovey?
I feel like Lovey should have been the coach from the jump and not David Culley. Because when we hired David Culley, I'm pretty sure you guys, James, like, what the hell are they doing? Who is this guy? I don't think Lovett was a bad coach, but like VT said, he was just very, very stubborn. And I agree with you, James. I would have 1,000 questions as well for ownership because things wasn't going right. But other than that, let's move on.
Hey, move forward, man.
Yeah.
I've never seen this much excitement with this team.
Yeah. Well, keeping it into the NFL news portion, speaking of Lovie Smith, the Bears, man, it seems like they're making a run. James, I'll kick it off with you. So far, which team are you most impressed with the free agency and the grabs that they're getting?
Yeah, I don't know. Speaking of Lovely, by the way, I heard they got that new stadium they're building up in Arlington Heights, the racetrack in Chicago in the suburbs. And I heard there's going to be a Lovey statue for winning that game over the Colts to get them the number 1 pick. I heard that was part of the plans of the new stadium.
That'd be that troll level right there.
Around, but yeah, right. I don't know, man. It was funny. We were talking about that play on Good Morning Football yesterday or this morning. I don't know. They're all the days are running together. And Jason McCourty and I were standing next to each other, and Jason's like, I feel like that dude just let it go through his hands. Like, how do you not knock that ball down?
Right.
Right.
I think
who it was.
Every Texan player
was at the goal. Literally, it goes straight through his hands.
It did. Yeah.
I'm like, dude, how did he not? McCourty's a defensive back for 12 years in this league, and he was like, I don't know how you don't knock that ball down, but whatever. I would think, like, I'll give you a couple that I'm impressed with early on. I think Denver has been impressive early on with Sean Payton and revamping that offensive line. They spent more money in day one than anybody else in football. I think it's telling about what they want to do moving forward, getting Mike McGlinchey and Ben Powers and then Chris Manhurst, who's a blocking tight end. All those guys are really good at run blocking. That shows me they're going to rely on the run, man. They're going to limit Russ in a sense to where it's going to be like back in the day when he was playing for Pete, and it's going to be run the ball and pick your spots and find your avenues to have him make plays and not put it all on his shoulders. And Sean fixed that offensive line in 05 to 06. In the first year he was in New Orleans brilliantly. And it's going to be interesting to see if he does that again. And getting Zach Allen when they knew they couldn't keep Draymond Jones was a decent move. And Alex Singleton back. So I think they've kind of impressed me in a sense. Chicago, it's interesting because, they trade Roquan, who wants $20 a year last year, and they trade him. And then they go out and shell out big bucks on day one for 2 linebackers who we'll see. Maybe they fit what Matt Eberflus wants to do. But to me, Roquan's a better linebacker, and he's a better player. Now, I think Tremaine Edmonds has like a lot of upside. His length is great. His ability to cover is great. He can do a lot of things for you. I think he does fit Matt's defense a little bit better than maybe Roquan. And TJ's got a guy that plays a ton of snaps and calls your defense, so I get it. So it's like combined annually, I think it's almost $25 million as opposed to the 20 for Roquan. So maybe that was their thinking, but I thought that was a little interesting. The best part of their offseason is getting DJ Moore. It's not even close. We can talk about this at length, and I'll get all your guys' opinions too, but like the receiver market's just not there in free agency. And you got a better player than anybody else has gotten in free agency. I mean, you're right. He's better than every other receiver that's available. And so making that trade and having him be the cherry on the top with that trade with the Panthers, I think that was their best move of the offseason so far. I thought they'd get a little more offensive line help to help Fields out. I mean, I think they got Nate Jones, I think. It was a pretty good guard, but yeah, I mean, those are 2 teams that jump out at me a little bit. You never want to see a team reach like crazy in free agency, in all honesty, because you're always overpaying in free agency. It's just a fact. And so I think when people are very selective with it, it bodes well usually. And we can get into the Texans side of things because I think they've had an interesting, very tactical approach in how they've gone about it. But those 2 teams kind of jump out at me. I think Seattle's been quietly decent. And I like Carolina, actually. I like Miles Sanders going there, reuniting with Deuce Staley. I think the world of Frank Reich, and I think we all should pay attention to that coaching staff. That's a really, really good coaching staff.
Absolutely.
That they've put together. David Tepper more or less gave them a blank check and said Frank put a staff together and didn't care what they spent. And it showed. It's a great staff there in Carolina.
Yeah, it's starting to look really good. VT, real quick, who do you think is having the best free agency?
It's hard to argue with the Bears. I mean, they had the most money and they were using it. So I don't think really there is another answer besides the Bears. They have every opportunity, and I could see them, they were last place this previous season. I can see them being in the top 5, honestly, with the amount of money that they're spending. Now, also, I'm very high on Justin Fields. I know a lot of people aren't. Some people still don't think that he has developed into the passer that he needs to be. I saw flashes of awesomeness even when he was a rookie. If you guys remember what I said, that I thought that he was going to be the best quarterback long-term of his class. And yeah, I know that's a laughable statement sometimes because people are saying that Trevor Lawrence was and still is the better of, the best quarterback in the class. I just think in 4 years from now, people will see what I'm seeing, that because he will be, I think, a legit dual threat, that what they're building right now can really be amazing for Chicago. Like, I think Chicago fans are really going to be happy in just a few years.
Yeah. All right, Crenshaw, speak to me. What you got?
Yeah, I got to go with the Bears. They're spending money like the Jags did last year, and it worked for the Jags, so I think it'll work for the Bears. I see them going to the playoffs. I see, Green Bay's, they're going backwards. Minnesota, I think after that playoff game, I think they're going to kind of come back down to earth, and the Lions is going up as well. But I like what they're doing. I mean, I'm a Justin Fields fan myself. I'm an Ohio State fan myself. I like C.J. Stroud.
I'm a Buckeye, man. I'm a Buckeye.
Yeah, he's a Buckeye. Yeah, so I like what they're doing. Like I said, they spend the money, and even if it doesn't work, at least the GM telling the fans that we're trying. So it's up to the coaches to coach them up, the players to get better, and let's do it. And I wish that could happen down here. Maybe not this year, but maybe next year when we have more money. So Bears all the way.
I'm gonna be, I guess. I agree with you on the Panthers, James. I think they're kind of having low key a great offseason. But to me, I think the
Falcons are a good one too.
Yeah, I think the Niners are having a low key good. They're bringing key people back and not making too much splash. But of course, it's hard to when you have and all that cap money. I think they're having a decent. I don't think they're going to be the team like they were last year, but it's always that wait and see.
I just don't understand the Sam Darnold thing. Like that was very confusing to me. Didn't make a lot of sense, but they lost. Go ahead, James.
They got to know, VT. They got to know if Brock Purdy's going to be ready for the start of the season. So that's the biggest thing. And in terms of getting Sam, too, right? It's like, and Trey Lance is still coming off the injury, and obviously they don't love Trey. They don't. And so, like, if Brock's not ready for the start of the year, it's not a terrible idea to have somebody like Sam start the first 2 games. I'll be honest, Kyle can get anybody to play. He's incredible coach. I mean, he is an absolutely incredible coach. He literally, and that's what made Jimmy great. And there's no knock on Jimmy, but like whatever he would spit into Jimmy's ear, he'd do. And it was that's a talent of Jimmy's, but it's also a massive talent of Kyle's to see things before they happen and to set people up to succeed. You never realize why Jimmy gets to the line so fast is because they cut the mic off, right? 15 seconds after. So as long as he's standing at that line, Kyle can keep talking to him. And so you could do that with Sam. You can do that with what he can do. And I don't mind having Sam there, considering you look at Brock's size. Like, I mean, I've stood next to the guy. I've talked to him. He's me. And so I think there's some concern for him staying healthy. I don't want to be out there. Right. There's some concern for that. So I think having a guy that you could afford and also has talent that Kyle always kind of very confidently says, watch what I can do with this guy.
Well, I think you may have answered this question. But so Tampa took Baker, and I'm not saying that Baker's a great quarterback or anything, but he's not horrible. I would actually thought that Kyle would have wanted Baker, but you may have answered that question. Do you think that he picked Sam particularly because of size over Baker?
I don't know if it's size. I think Sam
Maybe.
is very quiet.
I was about to
Sam
say
is
personality.
very subdued. Baker is not that. And honestly, I don't think you want that in your backup quarterback. It's the same reason once Mac Jones won the job in New England, Cam was never going to stay as the backup, right? You can't have that personality, that size as your backup. I think that's a little bit like Baker.
Okay.
Well, James, I'm glad Crenshaw brought up the whole Buckeye. I'm glad you brought up frames and size. So let's jump into some.
The Houston Texans select.
All right, listen, we're on the clock, and we're going to turn the pick in here in a few minutes. We're going to make you a Houston Texans.
Some NFL draft. So Texans have some good selections. James, we've been beating like a dead horse of who we want. Who do you think the Texans should get with their second and 12th pick?
Well, they should go. I mean, they should go quarterback. I mean,
right.
It's not really debatable in all sense. I'll give you. And he says he talked to people in every building. We had Ryan Leaf on Good Morning Football this morning, and Ryan said that the Panthers are in love with Stroud, and they're going to take CJ number 1. That's from talking to people in their building. That's what he says. Obviously, we're still 43 days away or 44 days away, whatever. And that the Texans actually like Bryce. I talked about this on our network a lot, is that even though they have the second pick, they can still get the quarterback that they have as the number 1 quarterback on the board. I mean, it just because you have the second pick doesn't mean you don't get the guy you want, right? Like, because it could fall that way. It could fall that they actually like Bryce better than they like Stroud, and it's flipped for the Panthers, and both teams get exactly who they want, and the Texans get who they want at 2, where they would have gotten them at 1 as well. That's what Ryan thinks between the two. I think it does make sense a little bit from what Frank has worked with and the way Stroud plays the position. I think his accuracy is off the charts. I think he throws an unbelievably beautiful ball. I'll be in Columbus for his pro day next week. And I'm excited to see him up close in that sense. I saw Bryce throw last year, got to hang out with him in Tuscaloosa a little bit. I am one of the people that is terrified of the size. I mean, he threw in their indoor when I was down there, and he was wearing just a shirt and shorts. And like, no lie, my comp is like, it's Allen Iverson, dude. Like the legs are thin, the frame is thin. I don't know how he weighed 204 pounds at the combine, which really, by the way, let's break that down. Makes 0 sense. Like,
right. We've been saying that. Yeah.
He's only going to weigh himself in. He's only going to weigh in. He's not going to work out. So then everybody knows he's lying about his weight. He's just going to bulk up for the weigh-in. He's not going. Then he's going to go back down and play at a different weight, only to get the 204 pounds on the books, even though we all know it's not real, and that's what he won't play with. Like, then why are we doing this circus? Like, why are we going around and around when we all know that's not what he's going to play at, but he's never going to weigh in again in the rest of his NFL career. Right. Same reason why Kyler's never going to be measured for his height ever again in the rest of his NFL career. But I mean, to answer your question, I do think the way Slowick runs it, you can manipulate it via the skill set of your quarterback. I do think they have that ability. And these guys are very different, and they play the position differently than one another. I do think the way Ryan Leaf said it is a better fit. I think Stroud's a better fit in Carolina, and I think Bryce is a better fit in Houston.
Really?
Okay.
So what do you like better? Okay, what does CJ does better that Bryce doesn't do?
I think his play from the pocket. I mean, both of them play really, really well from the pocket. I don't know if there's anybody who throws a better ball than CJ in the draft. A lot of evaluators, again, I don't claim to say I'm an expert. I just talk to a lot of them. And most of them say the same thing. It's hard to become more accurate. It's really hard to make yourself a more accurate thrower. I think Josh Allen is an anomaly. I think it's the work he put in. I think it's Brian Daboll. I think it's Ken Dorsey. I think it's obviously him, but it usually you don't become much more accurate. It's just a hard thing to improve. You can improve a lot of other things. You can process quicker. You can, work on your footwork, all these different things. CJ is just a really, really accurate thrower of the football. And I think size matters to Frank. I think it does. I think Bryce is an absolute winner. I think he processes quickly. I think they changed their offense because he was such a good passer. I mean, they were going to run a lot of RPO stuff down in Bama and stuff. And when they started seeing the way he played, they scrapped a lot of it. Like he's a legit pocket passer. And he's a straight up winner. I would say CJ's not. I'm just saying kind of what I've heard about Bryce down there. Probably one of the best things I heard was somebody from their coaching staff told me. They were like, you can drop Bryce in a pit full of rattlesnakes. His heart won't go up one beat. I'm like, okay, all right. That's one way to measure a guy.
Cool
but
story.
that's yeah. I mean, right. I mean, he's the coolest guy in the room at all times. The one knock on CJ a little bit is when things go off schedule. I think Bryce is a little bit better off schedule than CJ is, and everything breaks down in the NFL, right? Everything does. It always does. And that's one of the little concerns of Stroud. But I'll say this: it's the two of them. I know we're talking about the four. It's the two of them, and it is a gap, and then it's the other two guys.
So the Texans have had a hardship at quarterback. Of course, Deshaun Watson. Everybody, tired of talking to him for the past 3 years. But Bryce Young would be kind of the guy to kind of, rebrand the quarterback in Houston, right? I mean, he's the face of Dr. Pepper already. He already has some media limelight, I would say. I mean, that would kind of help the Texans in the media market, correct? James?
What, Bryce?
Yeah. Yeah, Bryce.
I'm sorry. What do you mean? You mean just because of Bryce's? Okay. Yeah. I mean, like, I honestly think it's so funny. I honestly think that the fanfare and the attention the Texans have gotten with just the hiring of D'Amico Ryans is way more than you could ever imagine with just the hiring of your head coach. Like, think about the perception. Yeah, think about all of you guys down in Houston, and then, like, it's something that the league is talking about, and they haven't even picked their franchise quarterback yet. So, like, if you're looking for, like, fanfare or to put the Texans back on the map, like, the wild thing is D'Amico's already doing that, and the draft hasn't even started yet. Like, that's a huge, huge feather in your cap. To have that with the head coach that brings so much juice, and you haven't even picked your franchise quarterback yet. I think you're already starting ahead of the game with what has come as we've seen it with the hiring of D'Amico. When you saw the number of people in the building, the number
Crenshaw
of
was there.
people that had come back, man, it was nuts, right? I mean, There's a buzz, and you haven't even rebuilt yet. Like, that's impressive.
Very. All right, well, let's move on to the Texans' additions so far. Before we came on, news broke that we re-signed Severe Thomas. James, I mean, you're the professional here. Let's get your takes. What do you think of the Texans' free agency so far?
I thought the early moves were the most telling and the most interesting. Like, I look at the Robert Woods move solely because you got young wide receivers you're relying on. I don't even know. You look at the numbers. I don't even know how much they're going to rely on Robert Woods. I think it's solely because you have John Mechie, you have Nico Collins, you have young players that want to know this system. He knows this system. Like, he played in it in LA. He knows how to be successful in it. He knows how to get open in it. He knows how it works. Kyle's system is different than a lot of places. Like, there's aspects about it that are different. I remember talking to Jerick McKinnon about it because Jet's played in this, and he's played for Andy Reid. He's played for, like, the two best, more or less, play callers that run it. And he said there's a lot of different intricacies the way Kyle wants it run. I'm saying that because I'm assuming Slowick's going to want it run the exact same way. I mean, there's no other reason to think he wouldn't run it the same way. So having Robert Woods early on, somebody that knows it really well, it's almost like an OG in the wide receiver room to teach, to be there. And then the same move with Case Keenum. Like, you go out and make a move for Case Keenum on Monday when the window opens. Like, you did that solely to help your rookie quarterback start week 1. That's what I think. I think you went out and got Case to help your quarterback start off the jump. And so there's not many offenses. I know Case really well that he doesn't know inside and out. And he, to me, is on a little, if he wants to do it, I don't know if he wants to do it, he loves his family, but he's a little bit on that Davis Webb path of like, he's going to probably has the ability to go right into coaching if he wants. And so that makes sense to me. And then the third thing I'll say, and I'll get your guys' opinions, is the length of all of these deals. Almost all of them are 1 or 2 year deals. And I think that's important because you're kind of, I think D'Amico's kind of saying, we're not going to use free agency to build the future of our organization. We are going to use it to turn over our organization and continue to head in the right direction. But a lot of these moves, like Hassan Ridgeway, who knows this system, by the way, on the defensive side of the ball, so does Sheldon Rankins, those type of guys, these deals are short. And I think that's telling. And I think it actually is the smarter play in free agency.
Yeah. Crenshaw, I'll start with you, man. What do you think?
I mean, I think it's just a Nick Caserio typical offseason, 1-2 year deals. I wish you could get out of that, but like James said, it does make sense, especially with the cap going up and we're going to have way more money this year. I love the Mason deal because that offensive line is bad and we need as much help as possible on the offensive line. The Sheldon Rankins move, great move because I don't need to see what's your boy name? Roy Lopez. I don't need to see Roy Lopez no more.
Oh, he gone.
I don't need to see him no more. But everything, it's okay. It's okay. I'm looking forward more to the draft and see what these other guys we got for free agency is going to fit in with the team. Could be camp bodies or these guys actually going to make the 53-man roster. What you think, VT?
Yeah, I mean,
and free agency wasn't great. VT, free agency is not great this year
at
all. Overall, free agency is not great. Here's some of the things that I am upset with. Why have we not extended Tunsil and Howard? That would have freed up around $20 million of cap space right there. I understand getting rid of Cooks right now is probably tough. So even though that's another $10 million of savings and cap space, I guess I can understand that. But Tunsil and Howard, Tunsil obviously wants to stay here. He's publicly said it. So did Howard. I believe we want them to stay here. So why isn't that deal done? That's concerning. That's $20 million that we could have had. Why do we sign Scott Quisenberry, of all people? Literally the worst rated center in the league last year was Scott Quisenberry. He almost got Davis Mills killed on a couple of situations. Not happy about that. Why do we keep signing Eric Murray back? Doesn't make a lot of sense. The retreads are the issue that I have more than anything. I like the Wood signing because, as you said, you need a vet presence there that knows the system. I'm good with that. Good with MJ Stewart, even though he's more a special teams guy. You need dudes like that. I get that. Even I like Mike Boone. He's going to be an RB3. He's cheap. Like that deal.
That means Rex Burkhead is gone. That's the amazing news. No more Rex Burkhead. So that's the biggest excitement.
The biggest issue that I have again is that you have moves, really good moves like Shaq Mason, right? Where we basically gave up nothing to get a top 10 guard. And then you have moves where we say we're going to not get a center in free agency. And the only center that we're going to get is one that was literally rated the worst in the NFL. Like it's like a duality with Nick. It's like, oh, here, I'll give you this. You're going to love it, but you're going to hate the next 10 things I do. And it's super frustrating as a fan.
My opinion, I think he's not killing the free agency, but I think he's doing an okay job. Like, I'm not on board to fire him like a lot of Texans fans are, but a hot seat maybe. I love the Jimmy Ward. I mean, the defense is something that needs to be rebuilt. Jimmy Ward, fits that defense great. Hassan Ridgeway, I think his presence is going to be good. Rankins, Look, the problem wasn't really the pass defense, right? It was the rush defense.
It was the run defense, yeah.
So if we can get people to actually tackle, I'd be great with it. I have heard that the Raiders and the Texans are in the bidding war for Perryman. Am I correct, James? Have you heard anything about that?
He's going to come on a visit to Houston.
So, okay.
And he's going to come and visit. We'll see what ends up happening. I think I'm not sure when the visit is. Might be tomorrow.
Yeah. Tomorrow.
But yeah, I mean, honestly, you look at Rankins. Like Sheldon Rankins can't get after the passer, but he can stop the run. I mean, he can. They were a different front with the Jets when he was playing against the run than when he was off the field. And I like the Jimmy Ward move. I had heard at the Combine that there were definitely going to be 49ers players interested in coming to Houston just solely because of D'Amico. It's kind of like what I said before. Like, he just brings that shit. He just brings that like allure. He brings that love from players that there were going to be guys that wanted to play for him. And I think that versatility that Jimmy has, where he's played nickel, he's played corner, he's played strong, he's played free, he's done everything. I think the guy that's going to benefit the most from Jimmy Ward is going to be Jalen Petrie. And I think he's going to benefit tremendously from Jimmy being there. Jalen is a baller, man. That kid can really, really play. He was so loved by so many area scouts that covered him at Baylor that I talked to. A lot of them were dropping like Buda Baker comps, Tyrann Mathieu comps, just because of, I think some of those because of the size. He's on the smaller side of things. But just a football player just kind of gets, just that's the biggest compliment usually a scout can give a guy when I talk to him in the offseason. They're like, dude's just a football player. Like, and they mean that in the highest regard. Like, you just want that guy on your team. He makes plays. He knows what he's doing. That's Jalen Petrie. I think Ward is going to do wonders for him in terms of this next year. I think we're going to be surprised by how quickly D'Amico turns his defense around, because I also think it's a defense that fits Stingley a lot better than what he was playing in.
All right. Well, before we go to the next segment, James, what is your prediction of the Texans? Do we win more than 3 games in one tie next year?
Yeah. Yeah, you win more than that.
Awesome. All right. Well, here's a segment that a lot of fans like. We like to ask the guests a couple questions. So, Crenshaw, I'll kick it off with you. What do you got for Mr. Palmer?
I got a couple things. One, who has the better food, Philly, Atlanta, or Houston?
Ooh.
Delay.
I think Houston is the food capital of America.
Yes, sir.
That is my take. I think Houston we got a delay here, I think, pretty good.
Yeah.
I think Houston is the food capital of America. I don't think it's even questionable. You have everything you could want in Houston in terms of barbecue, Mexican food, Tex-Mex, the international foods through the roof, man. Chinatown's money. Like, you can get anything you want in Houston, and it's top of the line best. And considering one of my buddies was a great chef in Houston for a long time, Chris Shepard, who ran Underbelly, who's a good friend of mine. I'll eat his food anywhere.
Oh yeah, that's over there in Tomball, right?
Can you hear us, James, or is it still a delay?
It's a delay.
Seems like a huge
What's that?
delay.
Underbelly?
Yeah. You said every belly or underbelly?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a real big delay. Underbelly that was on Westheimer. And then it turned into Georgia James.
Okay. All right, I got one more. So I was in Colorado last month with my wife. So what's the best ski resort? Winter Park, Keystone, or Breckenridge?
I ski Winter Park, man. Winter Park is my home mountain. That's where we spend all of our time. It's huge resort, huge mountain, small town. I don't want to see people when I'm skiing, man. Too many people in Breckenridge and Keystone.
Well, that makes sense.
All right, that's all I got, Matt.
Yeah,
all right.
Right?
BT, what about you?
Yeah, I want to know what you're listening to right now. I know everyone's streaming everything now, but if you had to make a playlist, what are like 4 or 5 songs that would have to be on that playlist?
Oh, damn, VT. Wow. Let me think what I'm listening to a lot now. Good question. I'm trying to think what's on my shit right now. Let me look. Let me see what what's played a lot. I don't even know. Cause a lot of times when I'm working, I listen to this band called Sigur Rós. They're from Iceland. And it's the greatest, most beautiful stuff in the background, but I can work to it. So that's my normal deal. But man, I listen to Teddy Swims a lot. Do you know Teddy Swims at all?
I do not.
That's a dude. I just saw him in Boulder recently. He's got an unbelievable voice. He's got tattoos all over his head and face and everything. But I'm kind of all over the map, man. I'll listen to a lot of Motown, a lot of old R&B type of stuff like that, a lot of 60s stuff. But I don't know, shit, in the house, man, the kids, they got anti-hero going on with Taylor Swift and shit all the time, you know? That's what I got to hear once in a while.
Gotcha.
Hey, man, it's better than Frozen. I tell you, I'll take anything over Frozen right now. So, BT, any other questions?
Yeah. Well, luckily we're past Frozen now. Yeah.
Well, I'll go back to football for a second. So Jalen Carter had some issues today with this pro day, right? He struggled to apparently finish. If you were a GM, knowing what you know right now with the case going on with the misdemeanors, the fact that he put on 9 pounds and struggled to finish those exercises, would you take him at 12 and put a risk on it, even though it looks like he hasn't been keeping in shape in the offseason? Apparently looks like this may have been the second time that he raced, and if you believe the other rumors, that he was also drinking while he was racing. Would you take someone of those questionable characters that high at 12, or would you pass on him?
It's a great question because his talent's way above 12, right? I mean, the what you saw on the field at Georgia, it's way above 12. That's why his process just got even more complicated. I was talking to somebody the other day. His visits are already going to be the most complicated visits of anybody this entire offseason in terms of the official visits in the draft. They got even worse because the questions that I've talked to teams now have after this pro day is we already knew you're under the microscope for what's gone on off the field and as tragic as it's been, which is awful. And then it just looks like you're sitting on your ass. If anything, with everything you're going through, it should have been the opposite at your pro day. You shouldn't have been 9 pounds overweight from what you weighed in at the combine. You shouldn't have came out there and performed the way you performed. Now there's going to be, and we always say this, right? It takes one. It just takes one team to take the flyer. You know what I mean? You've seen it with guys. I mean, shit, Laremy Tunsil had a gas mask on the day before the day of the draft. And so it only takes one team to pick you, but there were a lot of concerns. And I mean, when I say a lot, there was a lot. It's almost doubled now in terms of what teams want to figure out. But as I mentioned, it's 44 days to the draft.
Things can change.
There's a lot of time to try to figure some of those things out, but he's got to sell himself hard.
Yeah. All right. Well, James, my question to you: any movie comes on, what movie are you watching? What movie do you know, line for line, don't skip a beat?
Oh, I know. There's a lot of them. Like somehow my mind works to remember every movie line of every movie.
Same.
So if it's a Jim Carrey movie, I definitely know every line. If it's a Coen Brothers movie, I definitely know every line. Like Big Lebowski or something like that, I'll know every line of that. Mostly comedies, I'll know every line. But like, I'm a big movie person. So I'll ask you guys, what was the best movie you've seen recently? Is everybody going to say Top Gun Maverick?
I'm gonna say I like.
Because I know it's the only movie everybody saw.
I like the new Avatar. I thought the new Avatar was great. So
okay,
that's my opinion. Crenshaw, what about you?
I got to think about that one.
He doesn't like the new Avatar.
I don't think you did.
The new Avatar, it was real boring. I liked the first one better. I did like Top Gun, especially like the last 20 minutes was great, like real great TV.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but the best movie, it's hard. I watch a lot of movies myself, so I got to get back with you on that one. VT.
All right, Crenshaw. Yeah, we'll have to talk, man.
Yes, yeah. See, I'm
on the road.
I have kind of stopped watching movies as much as I used to. Right now, I'm binge watching Picard, and so I'm into that. So I'm on season 3 of that, and that's been amazing. If you haven't seen Picard and you're a Star Trek nerd like me, definitely watch that. But to tell you the truth, if I have to go like the last best movie I've seen, it's probably gonna be Black Panther, and that was a while ago.
No, wait, the first one or the second one?
Second one.
I was upset with the second one. I'm not gonna lie. I liked it,
What?
but I was upset.
You were upset?
But I liked it.
Wow.
What you
The
was upset
cutscene
about?
gets you, man. The cutscene of the cutscene of the second one.
That's a
Oh my god!
tearjerker. I loved it.
Oh no, I mean, like I was like a puddle full of tears on the cutscene.
Exactly.
Oh my god! My son was like bawling his eyes out next to me. He was fully Black Panthered out, wearing the entire costume. He loves Black Panther. No, it was cool. It was real cool. I like the first one better, but it was real cool. Maybe just because I love Chadwick Boseman. But
me and my wife just watched the movie. I think it was on Hulu or something. The Well with Brendan Fraser. It was pretty good. I thought it was one of Brendan Fraser's best movies. I mean, I'm not a big Brendan Fraser fan. The Mummy's probably the only good movie he's ever done, but it was pretty good movie. I highly recommend it. Pretty good movie. And the last one we watched was Megan. I will never ever own.
He won the Oscar.
Yeah,
he won the Oscar.
The last scary movie we watched was Megan. We'll never ever own a robot or anything like that.
It's just a ripoff of Chucky.
I don't care. You see a robot crawling at me, it's a wrap. I'm done. I'm good. All right. Well, like Crenshaw always says, this is the worst part of the show. It's the end. James, why don't you tell everybody where we can find you social media wise and what great stuff you got cooking? Try and get you another Emmy.
Yeah, we're trying, right? You know, keep getting nominated, can't take it home. So I'll be on Good Morning Football the rest of this week here in New York and on NFL Network, and then I'll be at Ohio State's Pro Day on Wednesday of next week on NFL Network, pretty much now through the draft every single day. More or less, but it's fun, man. It's fun, guys. I know it's an awesome time of year. We're all running on empty, but it's a blast.
Well, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule of coming on here. And if you see Mel Kiper or Rich Eisen, tell them we've been trying to get them on the show. So tell them to answer their DMs. You know, the best Texan show there is.
Okay. I don't know Mel. I know Rich real well, but I don't know Mel.
All right, Crenshaw, tell everybody where we can find you at.
You can find me at 5th Ward, Crenshaw. And James, one last thing. What do you miss about Houston?
Yeah. So when I left Atlanta to go to Houston, that's a good question. When they sold me on, I was covering college football, and they sold me on leaving the SEC to go cover the Texans. And the selling point was, hey, you're going to love the food and the people. And that was 100% right. Like, we made great friends, and the food was out of this world, as we talked about. I lived right in like right off of Washington Ave, like right by Laredo Tacos, and actually where Dre has kind of put a new spot. He told me on Washington Ave, Andre Johnson. So I was like right there, and on that strip, there's pretty much everything I needed. So, and the people were awesome. So they didn't lie to me on those two things, and those are the two things I missed the most.
Greatest city in the world. I love it. I sadly live up in this suck town called Kansas City.
Although you beat my Phillies in the World Series. But.
Hey, dynasty. That's all we can say. Hopefully the Cougars can pull it off this year. BT, what about you? Where can we find you at?
You can find me on Twitter at BrownChubbyBear. And we're working on the new website, so I'm not going to say TexansFanBattle.com right now. But we're working on the new website. My new articles should probably be up in the next couple days there. So just stay tuned to my Twitter account, and you'll know when the new website launches.
And guys, again, thank you for joining us for season 3 premiere. We're going to bring some great stuff to you. So stay tuned, especially around the draft. Us 3 will be here live in Kansas City for the draft. So make sure you check it out. You can follow me at A1 Day 1 Texans and the podcast at Texans Fan Battle. And make sure you check out the website, fanbattlesports.com. Coming live to you soon. Until then, guys, have a wonderful rest of the free agency, and go Texans.
Peace.
Go Texans.